So this video is for a day in a life. I'm not going to detail the different points of my life because everyone's going to be doing that. What I want to do with this is explain how I see my day in this life. This one life that we all get to live. And I hope from listening to this, people will think and change, because the way I see things is that the way we live in the system that we live in, and I don't know whether this video will ever get put into Ridley Scott's production because I don't know how he sits with being part of the elite, Hollywood elite, British elite. Well, I don't know what the version of the British Hollywood is, and how the people who are making this, I know YouTube are affiliated as well, so they're probably not going to listen to a truther like me, who believes in questioning things, that just because you're told something, just because everyone believes something, doesn't mean that it's right. And I know the key example that most people will point out of that phrase is about how people in the past used to believe that the earth was flat. But I actually believe in that. Or at least I question. I don't know really what it is or not, because I know that water always finds its level, and I know that most pictures that we get from space are CGI, and the lenses they use, the GoPro lenses, the all that kind of trickery that's used, that most people don't know about, the artists that fill in bits, put clouds in the blue marble pictures. Now, I'm sure talking about all this, I'm never going to get put on unless they're going to put a laughter track, because they want to use an ad hominem attack on me to try and make out that because I have a different belief than the system that we live in. But I don't want to dwell into that too much. The fact is that the reason why I'm mentioning that is because that's what opened my mind to thinking about other things, thinking that what we're told, the way we live, the very nature of everything can be questioned, and people are too afraid these days of questioning things. You know, if you do it on YouTube, you get your video taken away. If you're the President of the United States, you get fact-checked. I'm not endorsing Mr. Trump, but what I'm saying is that that's the world we live in, the Orwellian, Eric Blair's Orwellian world of thought crime and of changing the past. We live in all of those things, of surveillance society. They've all come. But now it's thought crime that's come, because that's the thing now. What you think is dangerous because of the internet, because now that people don't watch television anymore, don't get brainwashed by that anymore. But the thing I want to concentrate people's minds on is us as human beings. I think that's the most important thing. And I'm doing this thing called Isolated Humanity. It's similar to this thing. I started it before this was announced, but I know there was a day in life years ago. But I want to show the suffering of humanity, because I think if people understand that around the world, of the suffering that goes on, people would understand that the system that we live in isn't working, and that whenever anyone says, oh, why can't we stop printing money, why do we have to live with money, what mass production and all these different kinds of man-made concepts, we think it's utopian or a dream, or we laugh. No, it's an impossibility. But the fact of how we live now is an impossibility. It's just the way that we've chosen to live. People suffer, and there's inequality and suffering and disease and all sorts of things. I'm lucky with my life, born in England. But there's many out there who their one existence, their one life is short and not sweet, and is full of suffering and disease and death and pity and sorrow and crime. All these things are unavoidable. And you say, how are these things unavoidable? This is the way it is. This is what you were told as a child from your parents, that this is the way it is. There is no other way. We can't just print out money. Of course we can't. Oh, but in my lifetime I've seen that we do. But we call it quantitative easing. This pandemic that we're going through now has proven that we can do whatever we want. We can keep people working at home. We can pay them money to keep them in a job that they're not actually doing. We can have a proper social care system. We can bring them in hospital. We can give them treatments. We can work together on vaccines. That's the thing. We believe that we know everything. But in truth, we don't. We don't know why we're here. We don't know who we really are. Our name is given to us by our parents. The fact of that, the trees, the birds, these are names that we gave them. We don't know exactly what they are. When we see a lion, we say, that's a lion. If anyone says, no, it's not a lion. No, it's a lion. No one came and told us. There's no IKEA label on them saying this is a lion. We've came up with these names for communication. The same as we've labelled each other by names so that we can identify each other. And then we boxed ourselves in surnames, so that, and in countries, other boxes, man-made concepts to keep us from seeing the fact, the true fact, the only fact is that we are one. One human being, one. And we're all connected by that. All brothers and sisters. We categorise ourselves by the colour of our skin. It could have easily been the colour of our eyes. It makes no sense. It doesn't. We are all one being. We're one human being. The idea of giving you identity, the idea of giving you this loyalty, this patriotism to your country, is that you fight for it, is that you stay in it. And stop you from seeing that we're all one. Imagine how we could be if we all worked together. Can you imagine that? If we didn't have names for countries, if we didn't have that loyalty, if we worked together, if we stopped mass producing 500 different types of flavour of ice cream or different washing products because we have to have competition, because this person wants to sell you their things, this person wants to sell you their things, so we make so many of these things, the same things. We put little different bits of ingredients. We even do this with medicine so that we can patent them. We do all these foolish things because this is the way that we've been told, that the way that life should be. But it doesn't have to be this way. It's changed throughout history. So now more than ever, through this pandemic, we should be learning that we can do whatever we want. And that we should all be one. We should all be working together as one. Because that's the only truth. The only truth that we really know for certain, one that we haven't made up ourselves, is that we all have hearts, we all have minds, we all have souls, we all have arms, legs, we all have passions, we all have joys, we all suffer. All of those feelings that connect us. We're all human beings. The other things like our race, our ethnicity, our country, all these other things are all man-made concepts. Some of them are biological. And the reason we have all these man-made concepts is to entrap us. Is to make us fight against each other. Is to keep us bickering. Is why we have two parties when we have an election. As if you have choice, a democracy, to pick between two old men. It's important to have these things so that we do not see the truth. The truth that we're all human beings and we all should be supporting each other. None of us know why we're here. None of us truly know who we are and what's around us. We've given them names. This is the lesson that should be taught to all children, but that's not what we teach them. We teach them that we know everything. We teach them that we've discovered everything and that we've given it a name. Most people don't realise, don't even think about that. I didn't for a long time. It just came into my head that, wait a minute, why do we say these things are the things that they are? We don't really know these things. But the reason we have it is because we need certainty, and without certainty there would be fear, there'd be doubt. So that's why we give each other this false certainty at schools, telling each other this is a lion, this is a tiger, this is a tree, this is the earth, this is where you are, this is who you are, this is your identity. You are English, you are American, you're Chinese, you're Russian. We teach them about history and we pick bits of history. We don't tend to tell the bad bits of our own history, we tell the bad bits of other people's history because we want to create those enemies. Like in the West, the enemy of the Middle East, of Russia, of China, historically Germany. Why? When you really look at it, when you strip away these facades, these falsehoods, you see that we're all the same. We're all human beings. There is no difference between us. Yes, we speak different, we may look different, but we are actually all the same species. We chose to divide ourselves. Why? What's the purpose of this? Does it benefit us to keep ourselves in these little boxes? And it even works down to the micro level when it comes to families, because you look out for your own family. Charity starts at home, all those types of things. It's why we have a surname. It's the importance of being in that little box, keeping you away from the next one. Why is our human species divided so much in everyday life, in our workplaces? We compete against each other. Someone working in, say, a Ford factory competes against someone working in a Ferrari factory to get those sales, those last coins. While there's people starving. It's easy for people in the West. This is how my day is, thinking about these things. How lucky I am to be here. But how there's someone who probably won't make, or don't have the facility to make, their day be known to you, who will show themselves in a dire state, starving, dying. They won't show you people dying, but people die all the time. Imagine if someone sent in a video of a child's last breath as they die because they didn't get any bread that day. They would dare not show it to you. Imagine if there were hundreds of thousands of those videos of people suffering and dying. That's why I want to make this Isolated Humanity, to show that the system that we live within, that we think is the only system, the perfect system, it's failing. It's failing the majority of us. But yet, all we do is fight against in our little groups, like we have been doing. And that's why we forget that we're one. And we don't succeed in solving these problems. Because the system isn't set up to solve these problems. The system keeps those people in power and with wealth in the place that they are, and those with poverty fighting against each other in little boxes. Imagine how you could get people to fight for you in the First World War, the Second World War. People who may even not believe in the values, people who could be even told lies about what was going on, but yet they would stand up, victorious, and fight. Fight for some king or some prime minister or president who's sitting in a bunker, who will get all the accolades. How many people died for false ideologies? And yet it still happens to this day, because we want to hold on to identity, because we're told identity is so important, to know where you come from, to know who you are. But who made up these identities thousands of years ago? If these people came in front of you now, you won't do anything that they do. But yet we follow these systems of the past. But yeah, imagine if people did actually see the truth of everyone's day of their life. The people who go to steal things because they don't have enough money, and yet we brand them criminals. Yes, and some are criminal, and there is that element. But what I'm trying to say is that the majority of people who commit crimes is because of the system, is because they don't have enough money, or the way they're treated, or the treatment in their life. Imagine you're living in a poor country and you don't have any food. What are you meant to do? You don't have an education because there is no social services. There's no money to get you an education because you have to pay to go to school. Or you do bad and you drop out and you can't do it anymore. Or you just don't have that level of education. And so you're starving. And what do? You go and steal. That doesn't mean that person is a criminal. That person, if they had the choice, if they had money, they might not do that. We know these things, but we don't do anything about it. We could easily, it's like the fact that in the West, we know how to build houses. We know how to run a society, as it were. The trappings of firemen, of all the things you need, hot water, shops, all that kind of stuff. Why don't we replicate it in places where that's not there? The so-called second and third world countries. No, we'll let them do it themselves, and then we'll charge them money. and always keep them in debt so they're always behind us. Why? So that manufacturers can use those workforces to do the work that's so much cheaper. If you could see the truth of how this system works, of how the very clothes that you wear are made by people who are in poverty, how the people of this world, your fellow brothers and sisters, your family, the human beings, how they treat each other and abuse that trust, you'd feel shame on this day. And that's how I feel when I see this. And the thing is when you say these things, there's a level of cognitive dissonance that people don't really want to think about it, that people can't believe that this is possible because they've been brainwashed identity and who they are, and they're, good and all these types of things. And, poverty, well, that's because of the country far away. That's their problem. That's because they keep fighting each other. That's because they don't care about themselves. If it was your family, if you remember your little box of your family and your brother or sister was in trouble, you'd help them, wouldn't you? You wouldn't blame them. What makes you think there's any difference for us human beings just because we're spread out further and there's more of us? We all carry the same surname. That's human being. Even though that's a made-up name as well, because we don't even know what we are really, because we made our own name. That's what I'm trying to say. And the thing is, when you say these things, most people won't listen, won't even think about it, because they're happy with their life. They're lucky to have a television, a car, holidays, a job, food, health care, all those things. So why would they worry about somebody they don't know, somebody they can't even feel their pain? And then you get the organisations, when you put, I do this Pursuit of Truth on YouTube. And recently I had a video because they were talking about cures for COVID-19, and I was questioning about this, and how do we know what's true, what's not true? It's difficult to tell. And my video got silenced, it got deleted, because I questioned the Orwellian thought crime is already here. Imagine, just by questioning, my video got removed. And then they did put it back after I accused them of being like Winston chopping up the newspapers. But you know what they did? They just put one frame and took away the sound. That's the world we live in, where the very idea of thinking anything different than what you're told to think is a crime. But it's up to each one of us to find the truth, if there is such a thing as truth, the whole truth. Anyway, I think I've said enough. As I end my pursuit of the truths, I'll end this day in the life for you. And I hope there's some snippets that you can use out of this that maybe will change the way that we live. Because if you have a responsibility of being able to disseminate messages, of changing people's minds, imagine what it's like to live your only one existence, your only one life, and it's short, and it's not fair, and there's suffering, and starvation, and pain. Wouldn't you think it's your duty to do something about that? So I hope you can use my words to be able to do something about that, to make people think about the world that they live in. And it's not enough for us little people to be truthers or whatever you want to call us, woke. It's up to those who have the throne, who are in power, who have wealth, who make these changes all the time, to make a change for the better for all of us, so that there is, on this place that we are upon, no suffering and no inequality for anyone. Don't you think that's the right thing? And it's not impossible, it's very possible if everyone works together. And most of those 1% of wealthy individuals, they already work together with each other, keeping this system alive. Isn't it time to make that change? Take care. Take it easy. God bless. And peace.